All right, today we're going to be doing a live, raw, and unedited real niche research demonstration. And we're also going to be talking about, as we go through this video, the untold factor that needs to go into niche research that no one seems to consider, no one talks about, but it is super, super important. So the reason that I like doing these kind of raw live videos is because it gives me the chance to actually talk about the thought processes as I'm doing the action that I take, as opposed to just talking about the vague idea of the action that I'm taking for my publishing business. So let's get into this. If you're new to the channel, my name is Chris. I've been self-publishing online for 10, 11, 12 or something years now. And for the last 4 years, I've been doing this full time. And on my channel, I only talk about the type of books that I'm actively publishing myself. So that is low priced books. Now, before we get into this, it is super important if you're taking advice online regarding publishing and you are publishing a low content book or a medium content book, you're probably looking at something like the prices that I have on screen at the moment. These are low price books, and the way that you approach a low price business model is going to be different than how you would approach a higher price one. So it's super important you take advice from people that are actually doing low priced books. Okay. So, regarding that, I've been doing this for a while. I run advertising campaigns every single day. I'm making sales every single day, every single month. As you can see from my account here, if we just go to last month and this month, actively doing this. And I'm going to show you the finer details as we go through this video. So let's just come back to this, and we're going to go with step number one, which is to head over to Amazon, which I know it's hard. I said this was going to be unedited, but I had to sign out to do this the way that I wanted. So step number one is to come over to Amazon, and step number two is going to be to search for whatever the broad niches that you're even remotely interested in publishing in. So that could be coloring books, it could be activity books, it could be word searches, it could be journals, diaries, planners, early education books, whatever it is. Just have that in mind and get your notepad up on screen ready to write things down as well. So this is the exact way that I do my niche research. And I'll tell you now, we're only going to be using one tool for this. It's a free tool with factual data, which is a Chrome extension that just shows the BSRs off. So I'll talk about that in just a second. But step number one, step number two is going to be to come up to the search bar and search for your broad niche. So for me, for example, if I'm interested in doing math workbooks, we would come and we would just search for math workbooks. Here, I'm actually on the .co.uk store. Just going to pause this and head over to the .com store now. So let's go to .com, and why did I type that? Let's go to .com and search for our broad niche, which is going to be math workbook. Then we're simply just going to go ahead and search for that. Okay, so step number two, very simple. We're going to search for the broad search for the broad niche. Okay, so with this in mind, what we want to do from here is to pick out identifiable niches. Okay, so what I mean by that, and this is my thought process when it comes to making sure that we get into niches that have got traffic going to them, and niches where we can pick out obviously searched for keywords. So don't worry about that for now. Let's just find things the niches that are identifiable. So ask yourself as you go through, is something like an ultimate workbook an identifiable niche? Probably not, right? People aren't going to be searching for the ultimate workbook, really. In general, people don't search for that. Now, are people more likely to be searching for a math workbook for adults, or a basic math workbook, or a basic math workbook for adults? The answer is yes. So that is now an identifiable niche. Are people going to be searching for a big fat workbook? No, probably not. Are they going to be searching for math workbook for grades 3 and 4? Yes, they are. Math workbook for grade 2? Yes, they are. Okay. So, and just to give a couple more examples here, geometry workbook, grade 6 workbook, are they going to be searching for that? The answer is yes. So typically you want to make sure when you're doing a niche research that you do it for independently published books. But what you want to be doing is writing all of these niches, broad niches down. Geometry workbook, for example, and we had math workbook for adults as well. So you can just write these down. Don't worry about niching down or doing all those things. Timed tests, is that an identifiable niche? Yes, it is. It's something people are probably going to be searching for. So we're just going to write timed test workbooks down as well. I'm just going to keep doing that through the front pages. Now, so once you've got down in your notepad everything that you want to from the front pages, what you want to do is start digging a little bit deeper by actually going into the listings themselves. So for example, we're just going to scroll down and we're going to come on to, let's just say this one here, it's math workbook for grade 1. We're going to come into this, and I'll do more examples as we go through this. We're going to come through this and we're going to scroll down to the frequently brought together section, and we're going to scroll down again to the more items to explore section. So you can go through all of these carousels to find more niches that you can write down. This is super simple stuff. You don't need any tool to tell you which niches to get into. You don't need to pay subscriptions for services that give you niches. Just do all your research on Amazon. Trust me, I've been doing this for a very long time, and my results pivoted when I stopped relying on these spoon feeding services. Okay, so we have a new niche that we can enter into. Is it identifiable? So reading improvement for grade 1, is that going to be an identifiable niche? Yes, it is. So let's just go ahead and put in that there exactly as we have that. And you can keep scrolling through and just keep going through all these identifiable niches. So time, money, and fractions, that's an identifiable niche. 1 page a day, probably an identifiable niche. And we're just going to keep going through this. Now, once you've exhausted these carousels, what you can do is keep repeating that process. And you're going to do this for every single niche. So we're going to go into the addition and subtraction one here. For as an example, we're going to scroll down. We're going to do the same thing again. We're going to scroll through these 2 different carousels here. And let's just see what we can find as we go through these. So for example, large print math workbook is another one that we would write down. So large print math workbook. And again, you can go into this one and just keep digging and digging and digging and digging. I can promise you, this is how I find all of my niches. Niche research, in my opinion, is the easiest part of Amazon, but people get so bent out of shape and confused and frustrated with all the different criteria that people put out there. We're going to make this so simple for you again. So just keep scrolling through. This doesn't take long. You don't need any tools to show you this. Triple digit workbooks, you can write that down if you want to, because it's an identifiable niche. Just scroll through until we find as many identifiable niches as possible. So going through these, I don't really see. Let's just go into the reading one, and maybe that will take us into a different direction on Amazon. Again, let's scroll down. We're going to go through here, reading for grade 2. Just keep going through these, and we're going to find some more niches as we go through this. Now, when it comes to the untold factor, this is super important because no one ever seems to think about this, right? Actually, we have a new niche here, sight words and spelling, so we can write that one down if we want to. And the great thing about doing research on Amazon like this is that you just keep going down these different rabbit holes. So we're slowly getting taken into different directions with our niche research. So we're now entering into this kind of spelling workbook area in it, and we find like a handwriting workbook. We're going to write that down. And if you want to go into this one, you can scroll through these, or you can go into this one. Just keep writing these things down. Positive affirmations handwriting workbook. Is that a thing? We might use this as an example. So you definitely write that down because that kind of stands out to me. So positive affirmations workbook. Let's get that one down. And okay, so the thing here, the untold factor when it comes to doing your niche research, is that you have to look at any type of book that you're looking to create and say to yourself, can I create this? How am I going to create this? And how much is it going to cost me? So I'm going to give you an example using coloring books in just a second. So again, like this takes us into a completely new direction. You see how this works now? You see how easy this is to do your niche research. So don't worry at the moment if these have traffic going to them or not, because we're going to establish that as we do our niche research. But just get lost on Amazon is what I'm saying. Just do that. And always be thinking to yourself as you go through this, how am I going to create this? And how much is it going to cost me to create this? So if we come back to all departments here and we use our dog coloring books for kids as an example now. So this is what we're going to be calling the kind of proportionate return, which is super important that you're always thinking about when you're creating your books for whatever niche. Okay, so just going to go into the newest arrivals here so I can show you this. So we'll get into the issue as to whether there is traffic going to these niches or not in just a second. But for now, we're going to be talking about this proportionate return. So let's assume, and this is something that people really actually do, and I can't believe that people do this, is that they'll take a niche and then they will create the book, but it won't be proportionate to what the niche can return for them. So, for example, some people will create coloring books in niches that don't have buyer traffic going to them, and they will spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on creating those books, but the niche doesn't have the potential to make that money back. Okay, so if we head back now, if you're doing, for example, if you're using like AI to create a book for a niche that has some traffic going to it, then it makes sense to do so because you can create that for a lower cost. If the book has some traffic going to it, but it's going to cost you $1,000 to have a hand-drawn illustrations done for the book, is it going to be worth it for a niche that doesn't have the opportunity to give you that money back? No, right? It doesn't make sense. Now, if you're using, if I come back here to the positive affirmations, for example, now let's assume that this has got traffic going to it. How are you going to have this created? Okay, so you have to look at this and you think to yourself, if I'm doing this myself, is it going to, how long is it going to take me? And again, this is all proportionate return. How long is it going to take me? How much is it going to cost me? Or how can I have this created? So if it makes sense to buy software to help you create these type of books, then you would do so. And the same for any type of book that you're creating. You always have to be thinking about how much is it going to cost you and whether you can actively have this created. Now, when it comes to determining if something is going to be worth your time, you have to know what type of buyer traffic is going to these books. So we can already identify all these different niches and write them down, but we have to identify if there's traffic going to them. So we're going to use the positive affirmations handwriting practice workbook as the example here. So whilst we do this section, we're also going to be talking about which keywords that you can potentially be fishing out and using for creating your title and subtitle, etc., etc. So let's not get too lost and worried about that. Let's just go back to where we are at the moment. So we've gone onto Amazon, we've searched for the broadish niche, and we've gone ahead and we've also thought about what our proportionate return is going to be for the type of books that we're creating. So always thinking about how much is it going to cost? Can I create it? How do I create it? So step number 4, you would think at this point we're going to want to know if there's buyer traffic going to whatever book that we're interested in. But what we want to do, and what I do at this stage, should I say, is I start thinking about what keywords I want to get ranked for. And the way that I do that is by establishing what keyword people are probably searching for. So let's just type, so we're just going to go at this point, want to establish the keyword. Okay, we're not going to worry too much about all the other keywords that we're going to use in our subtitle, but we want to think about the keywords that we're going to be using for the title for our book. So the main ones that we want to kind of get the rankings for. Okay, so the way that we do that is we take, let's just go back to where we were. So we found a positive affirmations handwriting practice workbook. Now let's think to ourselves logically. Are people searching for positive affirmations handwriting workbook? I don't think so. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think that many people are searching for that. Now, in order to use the most potent keywords possible for the title of our books, what we can do is try and establish what the actual keyword is that we want to get ranked for. Because what we have here is it's a niche of the handwriting workbook, which has a unique selling point of positive affirmations. Okay, it doesn't mean people are searching for positive affirmations, right? That's kind of its unique selling point. So we can stand out and probably get our books ahead of this person's by using our keywords better. So now we have to establish those keywords, right? So I think people are probably searching for, let's just go ahead. And one way that you can establish this, if we can go back, sorry, is that if you don't see many branch off search terms, it probably means that people aren't searching for it. Whereas if you search for something like handwriting workbook for kids, now what we can see here is that we have a ton of branch off search terms here of different ages, different age groups, okay? So kids age 8 to 12, 4 to 8, 3 to 5, 6 to 8 with affirmations, which is good to see, cursive handwriting, print handwriting, etc., etc. So we can also go back and just see if the niche in general has got traffic going to it. So we can see that we have handwriting workbook for adults, for teens, for boys. So all these different like demographics that are being targeted is going to suggest to us that the broad niche of handwriting workbooks is going to have traffic going to it. So we could decide from there if our unique spin would be positive affirmations as well. So also you want to be thinking at this point, if you're doing this, what kind of spin can you put onto things if it makes sense to do so? So you don't have to have a unique selling point. You can just win on Amazon through virtue of visibility, more advertising campaigns, correct keyword implementation, etc., etc. The other way, on top of all that, is to have a unique selling point if it makes sense. And for me, it looks like the positive affirmations do make sense. So what we could do if we wanted that unique selling point is to take this positive affirmation angle and then build upon it, make ours slightly better through whatever means that you can. But like I say, you don't have to. You really don't have to do this. You don't have to have a unique selling point like a lot of people will tell you. But if it makes sense to do something different or better or different and better, definitely do so. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to search now for what we think is going to be the main keyword because it has the branch off search terms. Remember, the branch off search terms here means that the broad keyword probably has got traffic going to it. Okay, so we can write this down if we want to. We can have like a section on our notepad of our main established keyword, which was going to be handwriting workbook for kids. Now, at this point, you might be saying to yourself, well, that's not the only way that people find the book, and you'd be right. So at this point, if you want to, and what I would tend to do is think about all the different keywords that I can get ranked for that makes sense. So think logically here. What else would people type for handwriting workbook for kids? So we could have something like handwriting practice workbook. Okay, and again, we have these branch off search terms here. So we go ahead and we can search for that. And we can do our niche research from here. Okay, sorry, we won't, not our niche research. We'll do our traffic research. Let's call it there. So you can write down all these different search terms that people are likely searching for. Again, so practice. I can't remember what it was. Was it handwriting practice workbook? Handwriting practice workbook. So you can write down all these potential main keywords because the more you have here, it's going to help you create your title for your book, and it's also going to help you create your subtitle as well. So if you use this handwriting workbook, it also means that you're going to be able to use, so if you use handwriting workbook for kids as the title, it also means that you're going to be able to use words that you haven't used from your other suggestions, like practice. Okay, you can use that in the subtitle, right? We won't get into that in too much detail, but that's the theory behind that. Okay, so now we have to start doing our niche research. We have to start doing our traffic research to establish if there's buyer traffic going to these books. So we're using DS Amazon Quick View. As you can see here, it shows the BSR underneath this. Now, when it comes to establishing buyer traffic, people get completely brain dead and confused over the different criteria, like how many reviews should the competitors' books have, how low should the BSRs be, how many search results should there be. And I would say for the most part, you can just drop most of that perspective, because the more the more things that you focus on, the more confused that you're going to get. So all these different criteria that are being put out there, you can just drop most of them and just focus on the things that really matter. So don't worry about the search results. I've never worried about search results. If it's low and the niche has got traffic going to it, then yeah, that's probably a good sign. But it definitely doesn't mean that you can't compete in these niches that have got high search results going to them. Okay. The other thing I've never taken any notice of whatsoever is the number of reviews that people have for their books. A lot of people will tell you that you can't compete with a book that has 84,000 reviews on it. It's not true. I compete against books that have more reviews than mine all the time. And the reason for that is because there's not one way of being found on Amazon. There's not one keyword that will just bring everyone to this book here. And also, people have different tastes. People will want to some people want to spend more, some people want to spend less. And also, some people will buy this product, they'll use it, and then they'll buy another product. So don't listen to anyone that says Amazon is saturated just because books are selling well ahead of yours. And your book doesn't have to sell as well as this one. It really doesn't. This one is selling an incredible amount. You're not going to get a ranking of that if you create a book like this. You just won't. But you can still make sales in these niches. Okay. So in terms of traffic, how do we determine if the niche is actually worth getting into? So for me, you want to understand that a book that has a ranking of 76 on the .com store is making an incredible amount of sales every single day. You want to understand that a book ranking of 3,000, let's say that this book is maybe selling around, I don't know, 2,000 copies a month. Let's just say that 1,500, 2,000, maybe 3,000 copies a month. And the thing is, these BSRs don't stay consistent. So there's no point in using those BSR tools the BSR calculator tools. So 1,000, again, you have to assume that there's a ton of sales going to these books. Now, when you start getting up to like 83,000, let's just make the assumption here that that's going to be like maybe 3, 4, 5 sales a day. Okay. Now, if you're getting into the kind of 200,000s for, like, let's just say 117,000 here, let's assume it's around 2 sales a day. Let's assume that if we hit, I'm trying to find one. Now I'm looking at this niche, I'm liking it. Do you know why I'm liking it? Because the BSRs are all consistently low-ish. Okay, there's not many BSRs that are over 200,000, right? So this already suggests that there's a good amount of traffic or buyer interest in these type of books. Now you're going to get anomalies that don't make sense. Some of the books will have a ranking of 1 million, and then this is where people get super confused because they see a lot of books that have like a low ranking, and then like 2 or 3 on the front page that have a, you know, like a 500k ranking, 1 million ranking, or 2 million ranking, and they go, oh well, you know, not every single book on the front page is making sales. I can't get into that niche. Now you're never going to find like the perfect criteria when it comes to these BSRs. You just want to go and brush through this and say to yourself, yeah, you know what? Handwriting workbook for kids, there's a ton of traffic going to this, a ton of buyer interest. Look how low these BSRs are, right? You know, some of them aren't performing as well as others. Maybe it could be the reviews, it could be the price point. Whatever the case is, for the most part, they're selling well. Now, if you take a look at, let's just do another example here so I can showcase the BSRs. Let's just do a rabbit coloring book for kids. So let's just wait for the BSRs to load. Now, can we see a difference in what's going on here? So we have 1,000, 1 million, 1 million, 400,000. And bear in mind, most people are running ads to their books now. So even if they have like a 400 ranking, 455,000 ranking, that you might think, oh, well, it's not too bad. But keep in mind that they're probably running ads as well, which is going to make that number lower than it kind of makes sense to be. 780,000, 1 million, 1 billion, 1 million, 1 million, 1,500,000. Now, you should be able to get to the point where you look at this and you say to yourself, should I create a rabbit coloring book? Probably not. Like there's not much evidence to suggest that there's a lot of traffic or buyer interest going to a rabbit coloring book. Now, would you, and this is what people do, again, proportionate return, they go ahead and they create They hire an illustrator to create a rabbit coloring book because they think it's a good idea, and they end up losing a ton of money. Okay, so there's that proportionate return. Now, if you were doing something like let's try and think of a different example. Did we do dog coloring book already? I think we had a dog coloring book. Now, if you looked at these, for example, and you see the BSRs consistently hovering around that sort of 300, 400, 100, 200, it's all over the place. It's a little bit here, a little bit there. You look at that and say to yourself, well, maybe I could create this type of book using a graphics pack or using AI if I don't do this myself. But you might be inclined to think to yourself, a proportionate return here, it would make sense if I invested only a small amount. So graphic pack or AI is going to be cheaper than hiring an illustrator to create this type of book, right? And it doesn't make sense to hire an illustrator for this type of book, in my opinion, if it's going to cost you a ton of money. I've not done the full niche research, but I think you understand what I'm getting at with this proportionate return thing. So that's step number 5, and that is the buyer traffic that is going to the book. So again, there's not really a criteria here, and I don't suggest that people have that criteria other than sort of understanding what kind of sales are going to these BSRs. So for me, at any point that you're doing your niche research and you want to just continue on with the niche research, and you just go ahead, you're going to click and just keep doing that same process over and over. So if it doesn't look like dog coloring books are selling that well, then you can go ahead and you can start going to the explore more items, and you can take a look at these even more niches. So you have horses, you have how to draw, which pops up, which is a great niche. How to draw is a fantastic niche. Butterflies and flowers, cats, all these different niches that you can get into, and then start doing your niche research from there. So for example, let's just do another one here. We can see butterflies is a potential niche. Now, what I would do is come over to Amazon, butterfly coloring book. Are people searching for butterfly coloring books and variations of that? It looks like they are. Let's just keep typing and just see. Yeah, you know what? Butterfly coloring book for kids, adults, different age groups, for toddlers, all kinds of different search terms that are branching off for a butterfly coloring book. So we do our niche research from here. Okay, so let's wait for our DS Amazon Quick View to load. So we're going to disregard some of the sponsored listings. We're just going to go through and take a look at the BSRs. Now, this is gorgeous. I love this book cover, by the way. 3,900, fantastic. 1,000, amazing. 13,000, really good. 142,000, it's okay. But when you see an okay BSR, look at the quality of the book. Is it good? Is the title and subtitle good? Is it aesthetically pleasing? It's not. Now, here's the best thing that you can ever do when you're doing your niche research. If you can see that a poor book is selling well, or a book that you can definitely improve upon, or a style that you can improve upon, then you are on to an absolute winner. Obviously, it means if a bad book is selling, that there's just interest going to the niche to the point where people are willing to buy bad books. Okay, so just keep scrolling through and let's look through the front pages here and try and establish together how we would create a butterfly coloring book after doing this niche research. Okay, so we have 26,000, 1,900, 200,000 with no reviews on it, not particularly good. Okay, I like that. 6 million. Now, this is the anomalies that we're talking about. Terrible book, awful. No disrespect to people's books, by the way. Like, I know Amazon, I know it's hard. It is hard to understand what a good book is, and some people are just starting off, which is fine. But the reality is, like, it's not good. Like, that's just the harsh reality, right? Ranked 400,000, 85,000, 96,000, 3 million, 200,000. Let's just keep going through this. 260. A lot of this is AI. 300,000 as we're getting lower. Butterflies coloring book ranked 230,000, 400,000, 600,000. So it looks less promising as we go through this. So now looking at this, I feel there's an opportunity here. Looking at these BSRs at the top would say to me, I probably have to get ranked toward the top of this page to make some decent sales. I'm not willing to make like a super intricate butterfly coloring book. So I might, if I'm looking, I don't want to do AI stuff either because I think it's a slightly better opportunity than that. So I might look at doing something for kids or something for seniors because it's going to be easier. So it's going to be cheaper for me to outsource something, simplistic images. So for kids or for seniors, it's going to be cheaper. Again, proportionate return here. I'm not going to spend $1,000 on a butterfly coloring book, right? So if we're in a niche where like everything is unbelievably low, then I'm going to look at it and go, you know what? I might spend a bit more money. I might spend a bit more money and try and take on the competition here, improve on what they've done, and get my book ranked up there nice and high. Okay, so this is the thought processes that I'm going through when I'm doing my niche research. So there's one thing that you need to take into consideration when doing your niche research is that for me, the sweet spot when it comes to the type of book and the audience that we're targeting is we don't want to, because if we type in coloring book, obviously all the BSRs are going to be good because it's so broad, or activity book or word search is also broad. Obviously, the BSRs are going to be good. It's going to be too hard to compete with. The advertising costs are going to be high as well. So the sweet spot, I'll go back to the whiteboard here and show you what the sweet spot is for, let's just call this the sweet spot. So the sweet spot for me is that we have the subject of the book, and I'll explain this as I go forward. We have the subject. No, wait, this isn't right. Let me think a second. So yeah, we have let's call it the topic of the book. Then we have the broad niche of the book, and then we have the audience for the book. Okay, so by that, what I mean is if we look across onto what we were just searching for, butterfly coloring book. Now that's slightly too broad for me. We need to have this audience that we're going to target so that things aren't so broad. And this is a big mistake a lot of people are making, is they're not telling Amazon what the audience is. So we would have something like butterfly coloring book for kids. So remember, we have our topic, okay, topic, which is going to be butterflies. That's the topic for the book. Okay. Then we have the broad niche, which as we can see is coloring books. And then we have the audience, which is going to be for kids. Okay. So this is like the three like pillars that I have for my niche research that I pretty much always end up with to make sure that I'm not being super broad with my niche selection, and also not being too niche down to the point where we don't have any interest. Okay, so just as another example here for how that works, and of course you would finalize your research on your final search term. So butterfly coloring book for kids. Again, you could search for you could test butterfly coloring book for seniors, but let's just do it for kids because I think there's going to be more interest in there. Then you would do your niche research again from here with the BSRs, because this is going to be your final niche research stage. Okay, so you'd go through the BSRs, look at them, establish how you'd have it made, and then make the decision if you want to go through with that project. Okay, so another example, instead of doing like a word search, what we would have if we'd done our research is like a large print word search for seniors. Okay, large print word search for seniors. So remember, we have the topic for our book, which is going to be large print. The topic is large print. The broad niche is word search. Broad niche is word search. And then the audience is seniors in this case. Okay, so we would, if we ended up doing our research for large print word searches, we would end up doing it for something that is niched down like this and go through. That's a cool book cover, by the way. Like, it's not beautiful, but it just works. That was like the first thing that I noticed with this. It just took my eye. Yeah. So you'd go through, I already know it's a good niche. Everyone knows about these type of books, but yeah, that's the type of process that I go through when I'm doing this niche research. So let's just do this one more time, and we're going to go through the entire process and just pick something at random, which we'll do again. Let's just go for activity books. So remember this first step, we're just searching for the broad niche, and we're going to go through all this now. Okay. So broad niche, obviously all the BSRs are going to be low for the broad niche. And at this stage, We're just writing down these identifiable niches. So I don't think a fun activity book is an identifiable niche. A maze activity book is. We can't do paint by stickers. Brain games, I don't think is identifiable. This is hidden object. Okay, that's an identifiable niche, hidden objects. Word searches, we're not really doing that. Sports activity book. What is this book cover, by the way? No disrespect, but that's a bad book cover. Okay, so sports activity book, that's the first identifiable niche that we found here, or second. Kindergarten activity book, that's an identifiable niche. Write all these down. Keep writing down. This is not identifiable niche because it's just, this is a proper cartoon thingy. Hidden pictures we established. Activity book for 8 to 12-year-olds. It's a little bit too broad, but we can write that down. Let's just keep going through this. Don't ever do anything like that. Memory activity book for adults. So we would write that down because I think it's identifiable. Let's just keep going. We've got kindergarten down already. Build your own cupcake. So you keep scrolling through and we're exhausting our first page. So the next sort of rabbit hole that I want to go down is this one here. I'm feeling this one here. And again, what was the next step that we go for is that we start looking through the frequently bought together and the more items to explore and even the products related to this item carousel. Okay, so we have memory games for seniors, which I think is identifiable. Memory activity books. This looks like an actual niche of like that people are searching for. So let's just keep going through this. Activity book for seniors. Okay, we could write that down. Activity book for seniors. In fact, stroke recovery activity book. Okay, I'm not sure how I feel about these things. That have for like people that have medical conditions. I steer well clear of that. I suggest everyone does as well. But let's just go and use these as examples. Let's just go into. Let's do the stroke recovery. We could write that down if you're going to do that. Again, I don't suggest that you do. But then we'll just keep going through these different carousels. Relearn how to write. This is cool. That's really helpful as well. It is regarding the stroke recovery. But it's really cool. Should we just do niche research for this just because it's a cool concept? Again, I'm not saying do it for this type of audience because it's a sensitive audience, but we can do it for the sake of this video. Okay, so the next step here is that we want to identify what the keywords that we'd potentially be using. Okay, so logically, what are people searching for if they want a stroke recovery activity book? Congrats to this person, they've used it for the title of their book. It's the most logical search term, so we're going to search for this in all departments. Let's just paste that in there. Now, do we have branch off search terms? And I already know someone is watching this and they're going to make a stroke recovery activity book. To clarify, I am not telling you to do it. I think it's too sensitive of a niche. Probably shouldn't do it. Okay, you're not qualified to do this, in my opinion. Okay, but as an example, let's keep using this. It has the branch off search terms. We don't need to rethink what the keyword is because people are searching for it and it is logical, which means that we would use that for the title of our book. Okay, so now what are we going to do? We're going to look at the potential buyer traffic going to this. Let's look through the BSRs: 32,000, 30,000, 186, 360, 13,000, 30,000, 40, 30, 90, 50, 51, 48, 113, 51. Now, had this not been such a sensitive niche, would I be interested in it? Bad book. Pretty bad book. This looks like a scam book. Dr. Tracy Hill. I'm not sure. I'm not going to click it in case it's legit, but it looks like someone's just put this together quickly and called themselves a doctor. Now, looking at the BSRs, what else can we look at here? Let's look at the price points for these books. In fact, these are much higher. So if you see a book that's selling at $12.95 and it's ranked 200,000, obviously your profit per book sold is going to be much higher than a $6.99 or a $7.99 book. So always consider that as well. Now, in terms of the proportionate return, if you're looking at the type of activities that you have inside this book, you can do some of these yourself, looking at how simple these are. In fact, can you do these? I'm not sure. Maybe not. I don't know. You would probably need software. Like if you had software that created activity book pages, you might be able to do this. I'm not 100% sure. But looking at this, I would look at this and I would say, like, if I had software that did this, or I could buy software that did this, I would be interested in doing it. Now, would I be interested in doing it if I had to outsource the entire book creation from scratch and have the unique illustrations? Probably not. I don't think the opportunities doesn't warrant that level of outsourcing or that level of spend. But let's just go through, and you'd have to look at like what type of activities they're using and how you would create them. Again, proportionate return. How do you create these books? How much is it going to cost you? And then look through the BSRs. And I think the BSRs, like again, you have the anomalies that are terrible because the books are terrible. You would look through these. Proportionate return. Is it worth it? If you had software, yeah, that's worth it. And again, you can always just carry on, do your niche research. If you're not happy with this niche, move on to the next one. So we can go through again and just keep looking for the identifiable niches. Just keep going through. Relaxing brain activities. Keep going through. Let's try and give ourselves a different direction now by picking a. Let's do this one, like the relearn to write. That might start taking us into a different direction. Okay, so let's just scroll through. Large print stroke recovery, ultimate stroke recovery book. Again, it's too sensitive a niche. I don't want to go. Interesting. Learn to write with left hand. I mean, I don't think it's grammatically correct, but this is an interesting niche that we can look into. So let's just type in left hand. What do we think this is going to be? Left hand handwriting practice? Left hand. Interesting. People are searching for left hand books. Let's try left hand writing practice books for kids. Let's just see what the specific books are bringing back to us. 111,000, 60,000, 59,000, 39,000, 500,000, 53,000, 500,000, 400,000, 700,000, 300,000. Okay. So some books are selling well and a lot of them aren't selling well. So in terms of proportionate return, what would I do here? Now, if I had some sort of software that was creating these, or I had like the graphics pack that you can edit for these type of books, I would say I would do it, because I don't think it would actually take that long to have this type of book made. Would I outsource this and have someone like draw every single element? No, I don't think so. But if we could have this book made in like a few days, proportionate return, I think it's worth it, right? So hopefully you can see what I'm getting at here with my niche research thought process. Let's just do one more thing here that I want people to fully understand. So when it comes to wanting to create books in these kind of what would you call like unidentifiable niches. So for example, what a lot of people will showcase on YouTube is like, oh my god, like this book here is selling so well, and then people go ahead and they create lots like these cozy space coloring books, right? But people aren't searching for that. You'd think logically, are people searching for cozy spaces, coloring books? Probably not. Okay, so obviously Coco, Wio, Wio, whatever they're called, are very well established. They have lots of money to spend on advertising, and they have proper illustrators creating all their pages. Now, if you want to create something like this, and I've been down this route before, and it does work, obviously, if you're creating a unique book, you have to think about what people are probably finding this book from. Now, if it's an unidentifiable niche like cozy spaces, the chances are that they're just being ranked for really broad search terms like coloring book for adults, coloring book for teens, relaxing coloring book, cute coloring book, animal coloring book, stress relief coloring book, all these really broad terms. Now, what they're likely doing is spending a lot of money on advertising to make sure their book gets ranked for these terms. And when they get ranked for these terms, they will make sales because they're Coco Wild and they have really amazing, beautiful books. Okay, so always consider that side of things when doing your niche research as well. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you like this type of content, make sure that you do subscribe. It keeps me going, keeps me motivated to keep creating these videos. If you have questions about the niche research process, because I know that it gets a little bit complicated sometimes to some extent, let me know in the comments and I'll try and answer them as soon as possible. But yeah, that's it for this video. I'll see you soon.